Hello, this is the next segment in working in Sandbox for NASCAR Racing 2003 season. We have a previous video available to watch that shows how to initially set up the sandbox appropriately. That video is available for you to watch, I guess, to get up to par, I guess, up to speed with what we're going to go over in this segment. And this segment is going to tackle editing items that are already existing in a track that's already built. And in particular, I guess, we will go over wall logos, either adding or subtracting them, moving their position, what have you. For the sake of this video, we will go over adding signage to a wall that doesn't exist on a wall. And what we'll focus on is putting this logo into another area of the wall on this track. So let's roughly put one about here. Probably a good reference here before we move on is to know what segment that you're in. These yellow lines in Sandbox, in the main window, shows you what segment that you're in and how big, how much area, real estate that covers. We're going to move to a different segment to apply a logo in a segment that doesn't have a logo. And one way to know that is you move that, your yellow lines will move as far as what defines the segment. And if you in that segment and you go to select your text seg in your W section properties dialog box, you will not be able to select any further segments. So it's just the one segment that's in there. Well, we're going to add some. So that's what we're going to go over right now. We are going to add, and make sure you're on the right facade. So we're on the left walls only, which is the side that faces the track. And we want to add that same logo, that Speedway logo, to this area that does not exist yet. So we're going to find that texture, which is right here. And you'll see it applies it to the wall. Now there might be a specific spot on the wall that you want it to show. For an example, if, say for example, you only wanted it to show in this spot, which is, for reference purposes, whatever, just past this shadow or that post, and that's where you specifically wanted it, there's a way to get rid of. I just applied that texture just to show where it would land. Okay, we're going to put back. It's probably a fair mention that there is no undo in Sandbox. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing, and if it's something that's wrong and you need to put it back to the way it was, you'll either have to do one of two things. Either have to remember what was there before and apply it back to the way it was, or revert back to an old save. So if you save on a more persistent basis, that's going to help you tremendously. So that's just a fair mention when working in Sandbox. There is no undo. So I'm going to apply the original texture that was on here before I applied this logo, which was, let's go find it here, which is right there. So now we're back to where it was. Now we're going to add to this wall. And like I said, I used the points of reference that I used as far as where I wanted to apply it was just past this post and or this shadow. That's where I want it to stop. Okay, but as far as where it starts, it was just past this caution light, I believe, if I referenced that correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and you'll see once you do that, it's adding a new section. It'll completely wipe out anything that's ahead of where you started it, and we want it to start just past this caution light as a reference. So we're going to apply, first of all, we're going to move this. Yeah, we'll go ahead and apply the texture. It's easier to see it that way. So we're going to add this wall speed, is what it's called. It's here. And you'll notice it does apply it. And when you apply a new text egg to a wall, it's going to exaggerate the texture. Blow it up, if you will. One way to fix that is to override. In this dialog box, you want to override that, and this gives you the option to change the U and or V values. In this case, we only need the U values. So we're going to change this to a 2. This is how this applies. And that applies the texture appropriately. Now we want the logo to start right here, approximately. This is where we had mentioned, just past this post and this shadow. So we want to keep this in this unit. And this is just for the sake of this video. This is not true, but it's just for the sake of this video. Now we want to get rid of this and anything after it. So in order to do that, we're going to add to this text seg 10 meters, and you can see it moves that forward. And it's at forward, so we got just about all of it gone. So we're going to move it up another meter. And everything in Sandbox, I should say the game, the sim itself or whatever, is related to in meters. You have the option in Sandbox to set your appropriate meters. I won't go into that, but you do have the option to go set it into feet and what have you. But it's best, and I would recommend, if you're going to work with the sim, that you have it in meters, since that is what the game uses for measures of units of measure. Okay, that didn't quite get rid of it all, so let's add another meter. And the only thing I'm doing here is adding to this value 13 and then clicking outside of that. And as you can see, now we're approximately where we need to be. Okay, so now we want to get rid of what's going after the logo, which is right here. So we want to add another segment beyond that. And it's going to disappear, which is normal. Now, we know where it starts, and we know approximately how long that, well, in this case we know how long that is, so we know it's right around 35 meters. And it's pretty close. See, you can see, I'll have to scale that back just a hair. So we'll go back to 34. And now you can see we've got our logo where we want it. So we want to apply texture beyond that. So in this new segment that we just placed in here beyond that, we're going to apply the texture LSL, and that'll be in the skewed, so we need to override and apply 2.00. Okay, so now our texture is applied to that side of the wall. Now with wall sections, you would need to, there's 3 facades. You have your left, your top, and your right and your back side. The side that faces away from the track, typically. So we will want to apply our tops. So go to facade, top, and apply the appropriate texture for that. Wall ST, and I'm in that 3rd segment, and we want to apply the appropriate texture size, which is 1 in this case. We'll go back to 2, apply that same texture. All ST. Okay, and you'll notice that there's a difference in the level of darkness on there. That's a light map. We'll get to that in a second as far as how to apply that. Also, one might tend to ask the question as far as like, why not use the copy properties forward in this case? You wouldn't want to do that in this case because you don't want to continue this logo moving forward. You only want it to be on this part. So it is critical that you do it in the fashion that I'm showing here, so as not. Now, if you had the same property in the wall as far as like not having the logo, in order to continue that all the way through a wall, a segment of wall, then yes, you could do that. But thought I'd mention that, or whatever, another fair mention as to why not to use that. Okay, so we got the top of our wall applied. Now we're going to go to our back side, which is the right walls, and our facade, and apply our back side of our wall. And that would be the same as the front, which is the wall SL. Okay, override to go to the third segment, text seg, wall SL. You can see how that's applied. Override 2.00, and so we got all sides of our wall and all applied based on our new segments that we added to add this logo. Now, as for the light maps, the shadowing, go back to 2, text seg 2, that would be this segment, text seg of the wall section. We want to change our layer to light map. Go to top for our facade, and I'm going to go back to verify fence light 04 is our light map on this part. So we're going to go back to 2, fence light 04, apply it. It'll be overskewed, override it. Took note of what those values were applied to. 2.20, 2.80, and we know that it lines up right. Our fence post is lined up with that shadow. So we'll do the same thing for this segment. This text seg, go to 3, keep it on top, light map, and apply that same shadow. Override 2.20, 2.80. Okay, so now our shadows are applied. And that is a simple and quick way to explain how to add a logo to a wall that does not have one. Hope this video was helpful, and thank you for watching.